The NBA regular season is officially over, and the Detroit Pistons officially did it. They won 60 games for the first time in 20 years.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Ku Khahil, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Today, later on, we will discuss some of my favorite moments from this regular season for the Detroit Pistons. We'll talk about my final takeaways from the final stretch of this regular season. But first, obviously, we are going to start with somewhat of the Pistons' final game, but more so about what this final game accomplished for the Detroit Pistons and the final day of the regular season, which, by the way, every team playing this day, I understand, every team playing as late as they did, I think was a major mistake by the NBA. Why are there games still going on at 9 o'clock that are mostly meaningless? Why are the Pistons playing at 6? Why are we not spreading these games out throughout the day, starting at 1, 3, 5, so these meaningless games are over by 7, whatever? I think that was a mistake. But on the final game of the season, final day of the season, the Detroit Pistons defeated the Indiana Pacers 133-121. The specific game itself does not matter too much. There's a few things I'll mention from this game that I thought was cool, but what actually happened within this game, I don't think really mattered too much. It's about what this game did, what getting this win did for the Detroit Pistons, and that secured them 60 wins on the NBA season. They finished this regular season 60-22. Through the regular season, the Detroit Pistons will finish 3rd in net rating, 2nd in defense, 10th in offense, 1st in steal percentage, 1st in block percentage, 5th in rebound percentage. They had the 3rd best record in the NBA. The NBA playoffs are coming up. That's where, that's what we're all looking forward to seeing. That's where everything truly matters. But the regular season matters too. And the Detroit Pistons getting to 60 wins, even if they would have lost today's game somehow, some way to the Indiana Pacers. Let's just say they lost. If they were at 59 games won going into the playoffs, what does it change? Nothing really. They go in as the first seed. They go in with one of the best seasons they've had in over 20 years. They go in feeling really confident about themselves. They go in with home court advantage. They go in with guys healthy. Nothing really changes. So if losing today's game wasn't going to be the sky is falling, it wasn't really going to matter all too much. But winning this game and getting the 60 wins, I do think matters. I think it matters to all the guys in the locker room. I think it matters to everyone, not just the players, but the front office. I guess the front office isn't around too much here, but the ownership, the people around the franchise that were there 2 years ago, and especially the fans that were there 2 years ago for the Detroit Pistons. I tweeted this out earlier. April 14th. 2024, the Detroit Pistons lose their 68th game of the season, and they finish 14-68 on the year, the worst season in franchise's history. Fast forward almost 2 years to the exact date, almost exactly 2 years, April 12th, 2 days off, 2026, the Detroit Pistons win their 60th game of the year, finishing their first 60-win season in 20 years and finishing first in the Eastern Conference. 2 years ago, they had the worst season in franchise history. 2 years ago, they had only won 14 games in the season. 2 years ago, Cade was talking about there's no way we're this bad. 2 years ago, we didn't know where this team's future was going to go. 2 years ago, they had a front office that was out of whack, a coaching staff that was out of whack, and a young core that, while had a lot of talent and was very tantalizing, at the moment, no one knew if they actually had a young core or not. Who knew what they would do with Cade Cunningham? Who knew what they would do with Duren, Ivy, Ausar? No one knew what was there with this young core 2 years ago. And without making any big additions, without making any big trades, without making any big signings, the Pistons did something that hasn't been done in 20 years in this franchise. And that is win 60 games. So while winning 59 and 60 games wouldn't have mattered for the playoffs, it absolutely matters when it comes to the story of this team, the accomplishments that this team has had over the last 2 years, these benchmarks that they keep checking off, these checklists that they keep checking off, all of these goals, these big moments that they keep going across, I think it does matter. And again, them winning 59 games wouldn't have made me feel any differently, more sour on the season. But them winning 60 games does feel like a perfect cherry on the top of, this is one of the best turnarounds you've ever seen in sports history. This is one of the best turnarounds you've ever seen. This is one of the best stories, I think the best story in sports. It just doesn't ring the same to say a team 2 years ago won 14 games and then this year they win 59. It feels a little different to hit 2 years ago they won 14 games and then 2 years later they won 60 NBA games. They won 60 games the first time the Pistons have done that in 20 years. That just hits different. That to accomplish this is such a huge, big time thing to do. Every single player should be proud. Every single fan should be proud. And Greg Kelser wrapped up the final Pistons FanDuel Sports Detroit broadcast of the season saying this. And I do agree with what Mike Breen said, by the way, on the last Knicks broadcast. He mentioned that he thinks he's very much against the fact that there won't be any hometown broadcast, that it's all just going to be ESPN or, Peacock or whatever. No more home broadcast. I agree with that. I think there should be an option for that for fans. But Greg Kelser wrapped up this broadcast, the final one of this season, saying that he told Johnny Kane before this game started that he felt like this was the greatest season he's witnessed in Pistons history. And when you hear that, obviously, if you take it literal, it is not. They have not won a championship. The Pistons have won championships 3 times. They have made the NBA Finals many more times. They have been in a stretch where they've made 6 straight Eastern Conference Finals in the mid-2000s that a lot of you guys were alive for. So if you take it literally, it cannot be the greatest season in Pistons history. But if you listen to what he's talking about and really have lived through this moment, if you don't look at it so literal and you just understand what he means by this, the feelings, the emotions, and if you were someone who witnessed the last 3 years of the Pistons, if you're someone who really witnessed throughout the entire 2010s and witnessed through this entire rebuild and went through the Monty Williams season, all of this, to get through here and to hear Greg Kelser say that, I think everyone understands what he means by that and can agree with what he's saying. For a team to have this type of season where no one saw them winning 60 games, no one saw them becoming the first seed in the Eastern Conference this dominantly, this thoroughly, this season, with what they've been through, what they went through, without making any huge additions to accomplish this and to do this and to hold on to the first seed all year long, it's the most special. And I understand what Greg's saying when he says it's the greatest season he's witnessed. This was not foreseen. This was led by a group of guys. Yes, Cade was at the head of the snake, but this is led by 15 guys that all contributed, that all fought all season long. A rotation that got as deep as 12 guys, that a rotation that saw two-way guys have big impacts, a season that saw a two-way guy step in for your franchise player and hold down the fort big time to go 9-2, 9-3 during a stretch, a season that saw one of your rookies make the jump to or one of your young guys make the jump to all NBA, another one of your young guys win Defensive Player of the Year twice, another one of your young guys win the Defensive Player of the Month, or not Defensive Player of the Year twice, Defensive Player of the Month twice, saw another young player win it once. This was just a full 82-game season of nothing but special stuff happening one time after another, after another, after another, whether it's a big-time win streak, whether it's Cade going off on national TV and being talked about as a possible MVP candidate, whether it's Isaiah Stewart finally getting his respect and winning Defensive Player of the Month, whether it's Ausar Thompson getting his respect and winning 2 times Defensive Player of the Month, whether it's Jalen Duren joining Cade Cunningham as an all-star and now becoming an all-NBA guy, whether it's JB Biggerstaff being talked about as a coach of the year, whether it's the Pistons being the first seed in the Eastern Conference, whether it being the first team to do this in 20 years and win 60 games, whether it's the first team to win as many games in a row as they have. This year saw so many milestones, so many checkpoints checked off one after another, after another, after another, and it felt like every other week you were watching this team that set off a checkpoint one after another in a losing season. Bad checkpoints. First team to lose this many in a row. First team to lose this much in a row. First team to hit this many losses in a month. First team to lose this many games in 3 months. First team to lose this many games in a row during a regular season. For those same guys, the core of those same guys, 2 years removed, to then check off all those type of same checkpoints, but for them to all be historic in the Pistons franchise, be historic, incredible checkpoints, is an incredible story that should be celebrated. We'll see what they do in the playoffs. We are going to break it down. Trust me, you guys know that. Hoping for a deep playoff run. But no matter what happens in the playoffs, it cannot take away from the story, the road, the improvement, the development that this team and this core has went through 2 years, almost exactly to the date. What they've done in 2 years is absolutely incredible. And to finish it off with a win number 60 is the absolute perfect cherry on the top. I am so happy for these guys. I am so happy for all the fans. The playoffs are here. Let's see what they can do. Let's see if we can see the Pistons improve upon and add even more cherry to the tops throughout the playoffs. But so far, this regular season, now that it's officially over, is one of the most special seasons I've seen in sports. And everyone involved should be absolutely proud and happy for what happened this year. Coming up, I want to give my final takeaways over the final stretch of the season, and that's when we'll talk about some of the things that happened in this game against the Pacers, which there's really just 2 things that I thought was just like, wow, that's incredible. We'll talk about it coming up. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs. With the fans, you can pull up the Game Time app, pick an upcoming NBA game, and you'll have tickets locked within minutes. Love seeing the all-in prices up front? You'll get that with Game Time. No surprise fees at checkout. You're able to see the view from the seat before buying tickets, which will make your decision, very easy. You got zone deals, you got great last-minute options as well. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not .com, with Game Time. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review. On whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on, that's another great way to support the podcast. Check out the Everydayer Club in the description down below if you want ad-free listens to Locked On Pistons, and also join the Locked On Pistons Discord server and also the Locked On NBA or Locked On in general Discord server. Also want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons, or the Locked On Podcast Network, actually, I should say, the #1 sports podcast network in America. I appreciate all of you guys. I'm sure all of my colleagues appreciate you all as well. I want to give my final takeaways of this season, and not the totality of the season. We're going to have, because the Pistons don't play their first playoff game until Sunday, so we have a full week of episodes. And what I plan on doing for this full week of episodes is going over season reviews of each player, because we'll have playoff reviews whenever the playoffs are over, whether it ends in a finals victory, the finals, Eastern Conference Finals, second round. We will have playoff reviews, but for the next week, I want to do season reviews. But before we get into that, I want to talk about just this final stretch of the season and why I think some of the things we saw in this final stretch could be big time for the Detroit Pistons going into the playoffs. Number 1, Cade Cunningham in this game against the Indiana Pacers. He shot 3 of 12 from the field. Now, he did have 14 assists, 8 rebounds. If he got to 17 assists, he would have got to 10 assists on the season. I thought he was going to be going after that. He didn't end up getting there, but he did have 14 assists in 21 minutes. But the part I want to focus on here, he shot 3 of 12 from the floor. He had 4 turnovers. In the games Cade has played since returning, he's played 3 games. He has shot 44% from the field, 18% from beyond the arc, and he's averaging 3.3 turnovers a game, 46 true shooting. He has not shot the ball very well at all since returning. But that is a good thing, I think. Well, not necessarily. It's not in and of itself a good thing. But the reason why I say that is because it's a good thing Cade got to come back before the regular season was over and knock this rust off before the playoffs start. I've complained about this from a fan perspective on the podcast many times. It feels like the Pistons are the one team, and I'm sure there's other players as well. It's not just the Pistons, but it feels like it's just the Pistons, that anytime one of their guys get hurt and they miss one, or if they miss more than one game, when they come back, they are just not in rhythm for the next 3 to 5 games. They're just going to be out of whack, and they're going to be completely rusty. We see that every year with Cade. Cade, at the beginning of seasons, usually starts off a little rusty. When he gets hurt and comes back, he usually starts off a little rusty. We saw the same thing with Ausar. We've seen it with JD with his ankles. He'll come back and not be as aggressive on the defensive end, especially. We've seen it with Stewart. We've seen it with everybody on this team. It feels like when they first come back, they just have so much rust. And again, I don't think it's actually just a Pistons exclusive thing, but tongue in cheek there. But I am happy that the Pistons got to see Cade, and Cade got to play before the end of the regular season. He got these games out of the way, so we can have that rust knocked off. And hopefully when the game 1 of the playoffs come around, he doesn't have this rust anymore. And he is much closer to being 100% Cade Cunningham, the peak version of Cade Cunningham. I think that's the biggest takeaway, the most important part here for the Detroit Pistons, is that you got 3 games out of Cade. You got him to, get himself back into NBA shape, with the peak NBA shape. And you're hoping that when game 1 comes around, he is Cade Cunningham, the best version of Cade. That's what they need. So that's takeaway number 1. Takeaway number 2 is specific to this Pacers game, but also I think could pay dividends in the playoffs. Paul Reed went 11 of 11 from the floor in this game against the Pacers. 26 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 blocks, 3 steals. I was just texting with someone yesterday, and after the game was over, this person screenshotted my message and sent it back to me. But I was just messaging someone yesterday. We were talking about, the depth of the Detroit Pistons, and talked about, if this person went down, who do you think could go down and would hurt the Pistons the most? And we were just talking back and forth. It was a boring day talking basketball, whatever. We were just throwing some random stuff out. And they asked me something like that. And I was like, well, the Pistons, I was kind of just saying, again, tongue in cheek, just, kind of trolling, whatever. I was just like, yeah, the Pistons could miss Duren for 2 games, and Paul Reed will just come in and do some absolute crazy stuff. And not to say that obviously they won't miss Duren. Obviously, they need Duren on the floor. But if Duren were to miss games, Paul Reed could probably just come in and do some Nikola Jokic stuff and just put up a crazy stat line. You're just like, oh, I mean, we'll be fine without Duren. And we've seen that happen multiple times this year already. I remember earlier in the year when he literally put up a Jokic stat line. It was like, I don't know, what was it, like 23 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 blocks, 3 steals. It was crazy. And then a day later, he comes out here and does this against the Pacers. Now, I understand it's the Pacers. And the Pacers are not trying. The Pacers are not a very good team at all. They're tanking. They're trying to lose. I get all that. But Paul Reed just showed in the final game of the season, well, he showed all year, but it's a good way to wrap up the season and kind of just keep it in everybody's head, that while the Pistons absolutely want Duren on the floor, and while the Pistons absolutely want Isaiah Stewart on the floor, if, knock on wood, anything would have happened to those two where they had to miss a game or two, the Pistons are completely equipped to handle that, because Paul Reed is absolutely incredible. He is absolutely incredible. He should be a backup big somewhere in the NBA. He is incredibly valuable. And I understand why there's fans that say this. There are a lot of fans that I've interacted with, and whether it be the comment section, whether it be on social media, whether it be at the Pistons games, that have asked me, why does Paul Reed not just play already? Like, why do they not find a way to put him in the rotation? I understand they have 2 centers, but when someone's this good, you feel like you almost have to have him on the floor somehow. And I understand that. But overall point I'm pushing here is, if, knock on wood, the Pistons were to miss any games from one of their bigs, they are in an incredible spot, because Paul Reed is amazing. And having him as a third big is cheating. It's unfair. He's absolutely incredible. And the things he's able to do whenever he's called upon is rare. It's just absolutely rare. He's incredibly talented, man. We all know this stuff already. But for him to come out here and have shoot 11 of 11 against the Pacers, 26, like whenever he gets called upon, he can just come in and dominate. I will not be shocked at all. Actually, I want to hear from you guys actually with this, whether it be the comment section or over on Twitter, somewhere. Find a way to let me know, whether it be in the reviews on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Please let me know this. I tweeted this out today. Because the clip of Andrew Nembhard in the playoffs when he isoed on Shea, hit him with the tween cross, and has he stepped back, and it was just like, whoa, he has that in him? I quoted that and was like, who would you draft number 1 on the Detroit Pistons roster for the absolutely did not see that coming, holy bleep, how did he, I didn't know he could do that, like, in that moment, in the playoffs, how could he do, like, that's crazy. Like Nembhard did. Who would you draft number 1 for the Pistons in the upcoming playoffs to do something like that? And I saw some Ron Holland answers. I saw Caris LeVert. I think LeVert actually is a good answer. Paul Reed absolutely could be picked number 1 in that draft. I will not be shocked. I'll tell you this right now. We shouldn't be shocked, I should say, if a random playoff game happens in round 2, game 3, let's say Duren gets into foul trouble, Stu fouls out, whatever, just paint the situation. In the third quarter, the Pistons down by 4. And all of a sudden, in the last 3 minutes of the third quarter, first 2 minutes of the fourth, let's just say, Paul Reed all of a sudden comes in, has 2 blocks, 2 steals, 6 points, 5 offensive rebounds, and just completely flips the game on its head. And the opposing team's calling the timeout 2 minutes into the fourth quarter, and the Pistons are somehow back up by 8 after being down 4. I would not be shocked by that at all. And I don't think we should be shocked by it at this point. I think the NBA at large would be like, who is this guy? What is happening? I think they would treat it like an Nembhard clip. But Paul Reed, I think, should be that will be my pick. Number 1 will be Paul Reed. Because he's way too good to be a third string big. And I can just see it now that he's going to have a pivotal moment, a pivotal stretch, when he does something that just no third stringer should be able to do. And he comes in and just flips a game on its head and maybe wins a Pistons a series. Maybe it's a game that literally flips the series, or maybe it's the game 7 deciding game series, wherever it is. I won't be shocked if Paul Reed does that. He's just incredible, man. I every time we talk about him, I have to say this. I cannot believe the Pistons have him on the contract that they have him on. It has to be the best value contract in the league for someone of his value. Like, it absolutely has to be, man. I don't know how Trajan got this, but he's incredible. Who would have thought that last game of the season we'd be spending 5-6 minutes talking about Paul Reed, but that's how good he is. The other final takeaways I want to take from the final stretch of the season, which I think are important going into the year. Not going to talk about Stu, even though Stu had a really good game here against the Pacers, and it was happy to see him get back and be healthy. I'm not going to talk about Ausar, not going to talk about JD. That's not where I want to focus here. There's 2 players that I really want to focus on. We talked about Paul Reed, but there's 2 other players that I really wanted to focus on. One, Kevin Huerter. I think he is another player that could end up being the reason why the Pistons win a series. And not because he's the best player when I say that. I'm saying you may look back at the series and be like, that role player, he did something in that game that flipped the series. He may hit 4 threes in a game and win you a game. And that'd be like, he just flipped it. I could see that happening with Huerter, or his consistent play elevating the bench could be it. Over the last 11 games for Kevin Huerter, he is shooting 38% from deep, 11 points per game, 3.5 assists, 3 rebounds to just 1.4 turnovers, 58 true shooting, 57% on twos. He has been so good. We've talked about Huerter nonstop. I don't need to get into, the uber details of his game. The overall point here is going into the playoffs, the final 10 games of the year, Huerter found his shot. He started to play more minutes. He started to play absolutely incredible off the bench. I think it's likely he could be the lead minute getter off the bench. He averaged 25 minutes a game over this last 11 games. And having him as another movement shooter who, again, he's finding his shot, that can also play make, attack closeouts, get to the rim, and is fine defensively because of size and length and strength. All of that I think, is going to absolutely pay dividends for the Pistons in the playoffs. And I think people outside of Detroit who are doubting them aren't taking into consideration that they did potentially acquire what looks like another guy who can shoot the ball and do stuff with the ball in his hands, and that's what you need in the playoffs. So Huerter, how he played the last 10 games going into the playoffs, I think could absolutely be a turning point for the Pistons and how they end up finishing in the playoffs. So Huerter and his play, I think, will go back to the final 10 games and be like, yeah, him finding his way, that was big time for the Detroit Pistons. And I cannot believe I'm saying this. The other player that I'm going to bring up is Caris LeVert. Caris LeVert has been mostly terrible all season this year. That is true. But over the last 8 games of the regular season, the last 8 games he played, 8 points, 2 assists, 2 blocks, or 2 rebounds, 1 block a game, just 1 turnover a game, much more efficient. He's shooting 39% from 3. He had a lot more high-end games in these final 8 games. And the reason why I think that's important, and really if you go back and include like his great games that he had against Washington back-to-back, and I know they're the Wizards, it looks a little bit better. The numbers don't change too much, but overall point is we know that JB's going to play Caris in the playoffs. And that was, I think, a lot of our biggest concerns for the Pistons, that they're going to force feed minutes to Caris, and he's been bad all year. The hope here is we know JB's going to play him. Is it possible? Again, I don't think Caris is very good, but is it possible that in the minutes that he plays, he can just be more of this? Can he be more of the last 8 games, which is an incredible player, but just not actively bleeding points? Is it possible that Caris has turned a corner to being at least a serviceable role player, to where when JB plays him, we're not sitting here saying he is actively losing Pistons games and points when he's on the floor? It's possible. He's playing a lot better defensively. I think he's been really good the last 8 games. I think overall, really, for the majority of the year, he's been fine defensively. He uses his length well. He's active in the passing lanes. That's not the area of the game that I think most fans are, done watching him because of. It's the offensive side of the floor. And he's going to be a guy that takes some bad shots. We know this. But if he can shoot 39% from 3 and take some of the better shots that he's been taking and maybe get hot like he did in a game against Toronto, if that, and the Toronto game was within the last 8 games, that's why I brought it up. If that's what we're getting going into the playoffs, that will make those minutes a lot more tenable, a lot more digestible, and the Pistons, I don't think, will flat out lose those minutes. And I know it sounds like maybe I'm trolling. I'm not. I'm being so serious. The Pistons going from absolutely losing his minutes or being so much worse with him on the floor to just being maybe slightly worse or just even with him on the floor would be a big turning point, because that's not been the case throughout the year. So because we know JB's going to play him, I think that could be a big deal for them going into the playoffs. So let me know if there's any takeaways you guys had from the final stretch of the season that could pay huge dividends for the Pistons going into the playoffs. But to wrap it up, I just want to go over my favorite moments from the regular season. We'll do the same thing from the playoffs in the playoff reviews. I'll talk about my favorite playoff moments, but we'll talk about our favorite regular season moments from this season coming up. The NBA playoffs are here, where every possession matters, every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing a series. And right now, FanDuel's giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. You can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That makes it easy to follow the action with player stats, trends, and matchups all in one place. And during the playoffs, that extra insight really matters when you're looking at stars, role players, and key moments. It just makes the entire playoff experience more engaging from start to finish. Head to FanDuel.com to get started today. And again, if you bet $5, you can get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to get started today. FanDuel, play your game. Now I've got to tell you guys about another one of our sponsors, TurboTax. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth, and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve, while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment with TurboTax. So I want to thank you guys again to make Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. That's another great way to support the podcast. I want to go over my favorite moments of the season for the Detroit Pistons. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, I should mention this for anyone that just so happens to not know. The Pistons do not know who their playoff first-round opponent is yet. If you're a new fan, if you're someone checking in on the NBA that's not necessarily an NBA fan, new, someone just in Detroit or someone that supports other Detroit sports, and you see the Pistons are doing well, okay, let's check in on what's happening in the playoffs, and you don't know about this, I guess I should bring this up for you guys. The Pistons do not know who their first-round opponent is because there is now a play-in. It's something that was introduced a few years ago. The teams that are in the play-in, the options of who the Pistons could be playing are the Philadelphia 76ers, the Orlando Magic, the Charlotte Hornets, and the Miami Heat. And the way that will work is the 7 and 8 seed will play each other for who gets the 7 seed. The winner of that gets 7. They're locked in. The loser of that will then play the winner of the 9 and 10 seed for who gets the 8th seed. So follow along with that. That will happen throughout the next week. Again, the teams that you could be seeing the Pistons go against: Sixers, Magic, Hornets, and Heat. The Hawks avoided it. The Raptors avoided it. It's between those 4 teams. I think the best team of those would be Charlotte, even though the Pistons did just handle Charlotte. I still think that's probably the team you would, if you just want the easiest pathway, you would rather not play Charlotte. You'd rather play Orlando or the Miami or even Philly. But those are the options. We'll find out throughout the week who the Pistons play amongst those teams. There wasn't much, there wasn't much that really could change today, especially after the Pistons game. Everything was pretty locked in. Anyways, now, getting past that, I think that was important. I should have mentioned that. My favorite moments from this regular season, going into the playoffs, I think number one, my favorite moment was absolutely, by far and away, Cade Cunningham's performance against New York midway through the year that got him on all the sport platforms, whether it be ESPN, Fox, YouTube, the YouTubers out there making it, podcasts, the NBA content coverage at large for about 2.5 weeks there was talking about Cade and the Pistons nonstop. And it wasn't just because of one game. Cade had obviously played incredible leading up to that point, and the Pistons were first seed leading up to that point. But what Cade did to the Knicks in that specific game midway through the year, what he did to Jeremy Shohan at the end of that game, after he was the big acquisition, like, okay, let's throw him out there. He's the defender. Maybe he's the guy that can stop Cade. He has one successful possession against him. You got the broadcasters sitting there saying, oh, maybe they found something with Shohan. That's why they brought him here. To have that going on, and to then have Cade bust him the way he did, and to have the game he did with everybody watching, I thought was absolutely, I think, the moment of the season for me, the number one moment of this season. And I think that was the pinnacle. That was like, he's here. He's arrived. They own you guys. They own the Knicks. You guys can't beat them. And Cade has your number kind of thing. That's we know we lost you last year. We know it. We don't care. We know it happened last year. We're coming for you guys specifically. We want you in the playoffs. You cannot beat us this year. And we're here to let you know every single time. And here on national TV for everyone watching, not only do I want to let you know that we're better than you guys and we are coming for you guys and we're looking forward to knocking you out in the playoffs. We want you in the playoffs. En route to doing that, I am going to stunt on you guys. I am going to talk trash to you guys after I do it. And I'm going to make it very clear who the best player on this floor is. Not just the best team, who the best player on the floor is. I'm going to make sure you know that. And that for me, man, that's it. That's peak for me. Absolutely. I was going insane during that game. And after that game, 42 points from Cade on nearly 60 true shooting, 13 assists as well, 2 blocks of steal, 8 rebounds. It was, that was a special night, man. If someone ever in the future, and I forget the playoffs, let's just say I forget the playoffs, in the future comes around and is like, Ku, can you tell me, can you just give me a moment from that season? Like, what do you remember from that season? This 100% will be the game I remember. This will be, you know how Steph has his game at the Garden? I believe he scored 55 or something on those. He was going crazy from 3. He's walking back, jumping back and forth, dancing. LeBron has his game in New York. I think Zion even had his game in New York. All these star players have their game in New York against the Knicks. That was Cade's. And those games are ones that get like attached to your legacy for years. Now, when you end up winning in the playoffs, I think those ones kind of get forgotten like Steph's did. Steph doesn't get brought up at all anymore. He has championships that get brought up. But until you do that, until you have championships, that is like the game of your career. That is the legacy game of your career. That's a game I guarantee you fans of non-Pistons fans, That's a game that they remember. That's a game when you say Cade Cunningham, they'll say, man, I remember that Knicks game, man. That was insane. That's what that is. So for me, that's my favorite moment of the year by far. The other moment I'd quickly shout out, and then we'll wrap up here. It's in a Pistons loss, so that's tough. And this will change when the playoffs come around because I'll start seeing this, and you'll feel this obviously every game. But that first half against the Spurs, I am telling you, that was absolutely peak basketball being played. The first game they played, they lost, the Pistons. That first half was some of the best basketball I've watched all year that involved the Detroit Pistons. Even though I think they were down by 2 at halftime. I don't care that they lost. You saw both teams playing absolutely like playoff basketball. You saw adjustments being made by both teams. You saw players trying to figure each other out. You saw Wemby. Look, he was incredible defensively. He ended up having a really good game. But even in the first half, you saw he was trying to get accustomed. Oh, they're knocking me over every single time. Oh, they're tagging down on me like this. I need to start making these reads. You see Cade realizing, okay, he goes up for a shot, gets blocked. He's like, okay, you're seeing Cade try to problem solve. Okay, they got this 7'5" dude. How do I problem solve this? How do we do this? You start to see Ausar cut backdoor. You start to see the Pistons try to get Ausar in pick and roll. Try to get Wemby away from the basket. Try to attack downhill with Wemby on the perimeter. Like, it was just, it felt like you were watching a playoff game between two of the very best teams at the moment. You could maybe even say at that time were the two best teams, or the two teams playing the very best at the moment. And it looked like it. It was blow after blow, uppercut after uppercut. It was incredible basketball to watch if you were a basketball fan. So even though the Pistons were down by, I think 2 at halftime, those two moments, Cade's is a game moment. That one is a half a game moment, but just man, we're watching some really good basketball from two teams and seeing the Pistons try to problem solve in live time against a dude that they just haven't played before, and also another young and up-and-coming team that's led by a young superstar. So those are my two favorite moments from the Pistons season. There's a ton of them, ton of great performances, but those are two games that I will remember going back years from now. I will go back and remember these two specific games for the Detroit Pistons. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Stay safe out there, and peace out, everybody.